Avery, whose show is this? And we're live. Welcome, everybody, here to the Lakers Lounge podcast. I'm Anthony Irwin, senior Lakers insider for Clutch Points, joined on this fine, was it Tuesday, Raj?
Tuesday, yes.
Night, my time, Tuesday evening, back where you are. Happy birthday, Miles. He's already asleep. No chance that he's going to ever hear this or care about it. But happy birthday, Miles. Little guy. Turned 3 years old today.
Nice.
You know what? Maybe I would imagine next year, this time of year, he's gonna be on the show for his birthday. So just fair warning.
I thought you were gonna say have some wine. I was like, no, it's way too early to start.
No, not looking to get CPS interested in how I'm doing things over here. But yeah, no, today on the show, the news recently has been that the Warriors and Jonathan Kuminga have continued the world's dumbest Mexican standoff in the history of Mexicans or standoffs. And the Warriors have sweetened their deal. I feel like every time they revise the deal, Joe Lacob immediately texts Shams and is like, "We're trying, more, man." We went from 24.5 to 25.
Yeah.
So that whole thing has kind of extended further and further and further into the offseason. And we could give our thoughts quickly on that entire situation here in a second. But I want to relay it back to the Lakers thing because I've been thinking about this anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, the NBA is a business, right? That's one of the age-old cliches that this league is a business. This is this. And so I was thinking the Lakers they can put together, Raj, an entire really good lineup of just guys who have decisions to make in the offseason.
Mm-hmm.
Where you could go with Marcus Smart. You got Austin Reeves, you got Rui Hachimura, you got LeBron James, and you have DeAndre Ayton. And then coming off of the bench for this rotation of expiring contracts, you have Gabe Vincent coming off of your bench. You have Maxi Kleber has an expiring contract. Their roster, basically the only players who have guaranteed money next year, I believe, are just Luka and Vando.
Yes.
Everybody else has either partially guaranteed money or a team option, or a player option. I guess technically, Austin's is a player option, and it's made me wonder. And I kind of wanted to bounce this off of your head. Is that something that you're concerned about because of the way that people operate? So we'll talk about that, and then we will. In the second half of the show, Raj has a stat. He hasn't told me what the stat is. I don't know anything about this stat. It's from last year. I hope it's not how many games that the Lakers won, because that is readily Googleable.
No, it's not.
Raj has a stat he wants to talk about that he says we can build an entire segment. You actually said that we could have built an entire episode off of this stat.
I think
so. High praise for your own work here. So we will go ahead and dive into all of that. A quick reminder, please do hit that subscribe button if you guys are watching live on YouTube right now. If you guys are watching on Twitter, head on over to youtube.com/@LakersLounge to find the show there. If you guys are listening to the show in the morning via podcast, please hit subscribe wherever it is that you get your pods, preferably on Odyssey because I'm a company man. And those 5-star reviews, keep those coming. Review the show, like the show, share the show, tell your friends that you love it, tell your enemies that you hate it. And let's go ahead and dive in. So I don't really want to get into the weeds of the reporting on this Kuminga situation. Basically, he's a restricted free agent. He does not like Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr does not particularly love coaching Jonathan Kuminga. Kuminga is a very talented player who might be destined to be a good stats, bad team guy for at least a little while. Maybe later in his career, he kind of realizes, oh, yeah, I had it a little better over there. But for now, it looks like he is intent on finding a situation for himself where he feels more wanted and where he will be able to have the ball in his hands. And the Sacramento Kings might be dumb enough to do it. So, shouts to him for that opportunity potentially.
Yeah. Kuminga to me reminds me he's better than this player. This is not to traumatize you or Laker fans, but
yeah,
a lot of Talen Horton-Tucker stuff with Kuminga for me. And it's funny, the report today, I don't have to get into it, but it was that the Warriors declined a Kuminga for Alex Caruso deal sometime last year or something like that, or which again connects these THT and Kuminga things as well. But it's kind of an interesting study because I think Kuminga's really good. I'm kind of in the minority on that. I just, at least from what I've seen, I don't watch the Warriors every night.
You think he's good or talented?
Oh, really talented, and I think there's a really good winning player in there. He had a really nice game in the Minnesota series. And I think he's a player that the Warriors just looked at and went, you don't fit into like our square box as like a peg hole. You don't fit into our peg. And I think that was a mistake. I think they could use him this year. They could have used him last year. He's a guy that needs the basketball, needs to be able to defend. Obviously, he wasn't able to defend at the level that they wanted, but I think that's a superior athlete among a lot of old guys. And they pretty much looked at him and went, yeah, but you can't set split screens the way we need to, so you don't play. And that's kind of, extending it, exaggerating it. But I think Kuminga is a really good talent, at least at that level. But they've completely burned the bridge. And I think the relationship looks like it's dead. And to me, it's a little different from the Lakers situations. We can get into that. But just Kuminga just reminds me a lot of Talen Horton-Tucker, where if you molded that a little bit better, maybe it becomes a different outcome. The Lakers went the other route and they went, you are a superstar. Here's the basketball. And the Warriors went, you are going to become a role player here. And that's kind of the two extremes that I make from this situation. THT obviously now, I think on the Bulls. I forgot what team he is on now. But Kuminga looks like he wants to go other places and go be a scorer and go get paid. And I just don't see a resolution other than he gets traded from here.
Well, yeah, that we agree on. That's where this is probably heading. I just don't see a world where he is on the Golden State Warriors.
Doesn't make sense
after the trade deadline. I think it's absolutely right to point out that I think Steve Kerr deserves some criticism in this situation. I think a lot of times when coaches have success, that success can sometimes go to their head. Mm-hmm. And they start to have kind of very linear definitions of roles that guys step into. And one of the one thing that happens a lot in like the business world is you'll be at, for me, for example, I came up at Silver Screen and Roll and was seen as just a podcaster, right? Or not just a podcaster, but I was seen primarily as a podcaster. And one of the things that I was kind of looking to do, and a Lakers podcaster specifically, but one of the things I've always been looking to do is find a place to write about the NBA at large, right? Mm-hmm. And it's not to say that I wasn't I don't want to completely dump on those people, but they would bring in outside writers who, some were better writers than me. I'll grant. I wouldn't say all of them were, but I always felt like I was just kind of pigeonholed into, you are our Lakers guy, but keep the main thing, which I totally get too. That's what I was hired to do. I had a full-time salary and and benefits and all that stuff. They had a lot riding on the content that I was, responsible for. But I always saw a bit of a glass ceiling there for me, that I was always a Lakers guy. I was never going to be anything other than a Lakers guy. I love all sports, really. And I was just always going to be a Lakers guy. And it made me kind of, obviously I would have preferred not to get laid off. But when I was laid off, it was like, well, I'd hit my ceiling there anyway. Where was that going?
Sure.
And I think, to an extent, that's what's going on here with Kuminga, where he gets drafted and Steve Kerr sees this insane athlete. He probably sees like young Andre Iguodala, who at one point was a really, really high draft pick, who was the best player on his own teams before he got to Golden State. And Kerr was like, okay, well, we'll just expect Jonathan Kuminga to make the same sacrifices that Andre Iguodala made when he got here. Thing is, Iggy had already had his old career by that point, and he was really, really well paid. By the time he got to Golden State. And Kuminga's looking at Kerr like, but I think I can be more. And rather than saying, okay, how about we find a compromise here of, if you focus on these things, if you hit these KPIs, right? If you nail all of these things that we really, really need you to focus on that help us win, and you do that consistently, I'll up your responsibilities elsewhere. Because that's usually how it goes with role players, right? Is like, like Kawhi Leonard, right? When he was drafted, was seen as a 3-and-D wing, and then he just kept getting better and better and better and better. And then, he becomes so good that the Clippers are willing to pay him by way of tree planting service, right? So allegedly, but like, but a fun comment coming up later in the show, Phil. I did just Google what you asked me to Google, and it's kind of interesting. So I was looking at the situation here, and I do think that there is fault to be placed all over the map here. But to me, the place where it really lands to me, Raj, is with ownership. Because Lacob, he had so much writing on the 2 timeline thing.
Yeah.
He had so much writing on like the notion that we will win with Steph now, and we will win after Steph, but while we have Steph, right? And as we have learned, and I think the Warriors are like the best example of this, is that like you can't do both, because there are other teams that are focused on just the one thing. You have teams that are focused on building for the future, and you have teams that are focused on winning now. And that's something that the Lakers have kind of run into, right? Is that like the Lakers were like, yeah, well, we want to see what we look like after LeBron. And all that meant was that like, we've just sat here and wondered for, I don't know how many straight years, is this the year that they go all in, right? We're doing it again. Lucy has the football, and with the Warriors here, I think if Lacob ever wakes up and recognizes, boy, that was a fucking disaster, they aren't in this spot. And he has so much writing on Jonathan Kuminga proving him right that he's pot committed, and he can't even tell his own head coach or listen to his own head coach, who was telling him this guy's just not going to fit into our team-wide concept. And so there's a lot of conversations that probably didn't take place that needed to take place. And that's how you arrive here, where I hope Kuminga takes his
qualifying offer. That's the bet that the Warriors are making. What's funny is they almost pulled this off. We forget now, but I honestly think if Draymond doesn't lose his mind and punch Jordan Poole, we're looking at things a little differently here. That's after a title, by the way, 2022 summer. But crazy. Jordan Poole was like, Kuminga doesn't even matter if Jordan Poole is who we saw he was, right? And Jordan Poole was a young guy, just got paid. Another guy that I'm kind of connecting this to the Lakers. Ayton is another guy that was kind of in Kuminga's situation. Obviously, number 1 pick, number 7 pick, different expectations. But in any case, the difference here, Anthony, and I think this is important, and I think this is why ownership matters that you spoke about, like Steve Kerr matters. They told Ayton, we'll pay you.
Yeah.
Which they were not truthful with, but obviously it was enough to make Ayton believe
Bobby
it.
Sarves. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll pay you, do all the other stuff, become a monster defensive anchor, rebound, protect the rim, do all the high motor stuff. Don't worry about your shots. Don't worry about your scoring. We got you. And he eventually did get paid by another team, third party kind of thing. But Kuminga, I don't think that conversation ever happened. Like, Kuminga, go do what Moses Moody is doing. Moses Moody just signed a 3-year, $45 million deal. Go do what he's doing. And I'm sure Kuminga's looking at it like, Josh Giddey just got 4,100. Emmanuel Quickly got 4,135. I'm better than those dudes. I've cooked those dudes. So I think that's the tough part here, where the money is so astronomical now that you can't miss one payday. It's a huge drop for him. And that's why I think he might be willing to sacrifice $8 million on this deal to make it up next summer and not have to play on the Warriors, which that looks like it's kind of taken its toll by now.
Yeah, I was listening to the Hoop Collective guys talk about this, and the point that, like, there were two very important points that were made. One, Tim McMahon saying that, like, Kuminga is not a good basketball player right now. He's a talented one, but he's not good yet. And if you're the Warriors, like, how many more Steph years do you have? And, like, can you, like, all right, let's say they give Kuminga the contract that he's looking for. It was like the 4-year, $35 million deal, right?
Yeah.
Let's say they give him that deal and he isn't that guy. And like, Kuminga doesn't help them win. That's a bet that you now have to write out 4 years of. That ends those Steph window because you can't move that contract. We've seen how hard it is to move Jared Vanderbilt's contract, and he's for a half of that price, And so I thought it was a really important point that McMahon is like, if Kuminga was more consistently good, positively impactful for his team, this would be done already. And then the other point that was important that was made was Bontemps making the point of, like, the Warriors probably don't want Kuminga at his qualifying offer, not just because of the no trade clause, but also because he's making so little money that it becomes difficult to trade him for anything of real value.
Right. You
And
lose
if
him
I'm
next
Kuminga,
year.
I'm like, I don't give a fuck. That seems like a you problem.
Yeah.
Why do I care about, like, you have that problem? You know how you could fix it?
Get me out of here.
You know how you could fix that problem of yours, that concern? You could pay me,
Yeah.
Now I guess the agent is telling Andy Slater, right? Andy Slater, now of ESPN, that if the Warriors were to just turn the team option into a player option on the contract offer that is being reported, that it would be done already, that they would have accepted that and all of that. Which
the Warriors don't want 3 years on the deal. Yeah.
What's
they
that?
They don't want the third year under Kuminga's control. They want a team option. Yeah. That's where the headbutting is.
So it's like, I don't know how long this is going to continue. We are less than 2 weeks away from media days and training camps, and the Warriors, while they know who they're going to sign, don't have a professional NBA roster right now. And a lot is just kind of stuck up in the air here. And it makes me wonder, like, to bring this to the Lakers here, unless you had anything else to add on the Warriors front, but to bring this to the Lakers are going to be in a weird spot here where, again, you go through all of the expirings or player options or non-guaranteed contracts for next year. The only guys who have fully guaranteed money next season are Luka Doncic and Jared Vanderbilt. And, on one hand, I'm the guy who says I believe in incentive, the incentive programs and and the benefits of incentivizing people, in their own personal and often financial interests. But that can go to an extent. You can go overboard there. You can overserve that ingredient, and you can arrive in a place where you have guys at the same position who are vying for that stuff. You have like if I were JJ Redick and I were Rob Pelinka and I were all of the Lakers leadership, I would be talking to these guys constantly and being like, hey, the way that guys get paid nowadays, and it's the same message that frankly should have been made to Kuminga far more often over the years, but the way that guys get paid nowadays is through winning, proving that you can win. And it's been really interesting to see the Cam Thomas situation where he did take his qualifying offer. The reason he wound up having to take that qualifying offer is because he is a very talented basketball player who gets the kind of counting stats that that historically got guys paid, but we're in a different era of basketball now. And so that's how I think I would handle it and try to get these and keep guys on track. But at a certain point, Raj, like you lose 3 out of 5 and guys don't feel like they're getting the minutes that they need to extend their careers or get their next payday. I don't know. I'm a little nervous about it. How about you?
Well, let's be clear. The reason you have these guys on this team is because of the contractual situation they're in now.
Yeah.
You have Ayton because of him having, his situation, Marcus Smart, right, as well. You can go down the line, but you can look at it 2 ways. Either they can be super motivated, right, in a contract year, or they can go the opposite way of, making themselves a nuisance or having making trouble in the locker room, whatever it is. This is all stuff that when you're winning, like I think all this stuff compounds, and when you're losing, all this stuff compounds, right? I think Rui's a very interesting one. Last year of his deal, no extension, it seems like is coming. But the Lakers, I'm sure, are looking at it going, you have no choice. You either play well or your next contract is, in trouble. And I think that's where they're looking. That's from a cynical side, obviously, but I'm sure Ayton's on a prove it. Ayton doesn't want to make $8 million next year. Ayton's been making $30 million every year for the last 30 plus, right? I think he was at 35 or whatever it is the last 4 years. He doesn't want to jump down to 8 next season.
Yeah.
So I'm sure he'll be motivated. This is the positive spin, but Marcus Smart, I'm sure, wants to show that he's also not done yet getting multi-figure, deals in the league. So I'm not as concerned. Again, if the Lakers start losing, that's where all this stuff just compounds into negativity, where guys start wanting more minutes here, wanting numbers there, and things of that nature. But I think at least for now, while things are fresh, and if the Lakers win as we think they should be, Luka just had a big thing drop again today, which I think is kind of signifying how he feels going into this season and the type of statement he's trying to make. So yeah, I'm not too concerned right now, but that's kind of the risk of having guys on 1 year. There's a reason teams like to lock guys in for 3-4 years because
it OKC.
Yeah, it shows a level of trust in both parties, right? Dorian gets a 4-year, whatever it is, or 3-year deal from the Rockets, showing some kind of trust within both of those teams. So, but this is the spot the Lakers are in, and they have a lot of eggs, Anthony, in the Ayton and Smart basket. There are a million eggs in those 2 baskets. I know you named off a bunch of other guys on contract years. Those 2 guys need to be good, especially Ayton. If Ayton's not good, I'm not sure how this team fares. But I'm not too concerned. Yeah, it's just scary. That's a dangerous place to be, where DeAndre Ayton needs to be a top 10, 12 center this year. I mean,
that could be the argument to trade for Walker Kessler or something like that. Like, when you get that opportunity, or if you get that opportunity. I do want to say, like, the fact that we are in this era where winning gets guys paid more, like the player that really comes to mind where this swing started, kind of began, where it went from, if you scored 17 points or more, you were set, for basically my entire childhood to like early adulthood. That was basically, that's how like Rob Pelinka like would look at, try to find his clients. He would just go through, click on points per game, and then just go down that list, it's not like that anymore. It's a very different league. And the first guy that I remember that swinging on was Danny Green, where Danny Green never put up crazy numbers, like, crazy shooting numbers and crazy efficiency numbers, and his impact numbers were off the charts. But that was like a relatively new concept at the time, was like defining players through some of those impact numbers and those catch-all statistics and stuff. I remember when PER came about, and it was like, everybody's got to have a great PER. And everybody realized this thing loves Al Jefferson way too much.
Yeah.
And then, you kind of go to, you go to where we at now. And, Jordan Clarkson bought out this off season. Cam Thomas signs his extension, his qualifying offer. These like small combo guards who don't, Malik Monk, right? Somebody who you and I both like a lot. Sacramento's like begging teams to get to take Malik Monk so they can sign Russell Westbrook for some reason. But like these players who don't create for others, can create for themselves, don't create for others, not really good defensively. Those players are kind of going. Those players are like, we're watching them go the way of the dodo. And like, I'm not going to go so far as to say that Kuminga is that in a wing body. I think that dilutes some of his other talents elsewhere on the court. He can defend because of, his measurables. But like with guys in these situations here, you need a viable explanation to them on why they should be bought in. And the Lakers have that. Like if you're trying to like look at the bright side of things here with the Lakers have that explanation. They have that. They can go to those guys and be like, guys, this is how you'll get paid. Fuck, we'll pay you. We have the caps. The Lakers have the cap space after all of this, right? If they mess around, they win at a higher level than we expect. And this team resonates with the city and all that good stuff. The Lakers are like, let's extend. Let's talk business.
There'll also be a spotlight on you, right? Playing with the Lakers obviously comes with that. I just want to comment the Cam Thomas thing. He's a little like I get mad at this from a Lakers G League perspective, but this matters even more in the NBA. You can't give Cam Thomas 3 years of your organization. Like they handed the keys to Cam Thomas, run the offense, like keep us alive. And then when it's time to pay the guy that you just invested in for 3 seasons, that you've given the basketball, you've put in developmental hours and hours and hours in, to now go, you're an undersized scoring guard. Take the qualifying. Like, how do I trust you as an organization? You spent 3 years telling all of us Cam Thomas is the next, and I think Cam Thomas is a step above these guys that you're discussing of. But Cam Thomas is a special scorer to me, even on a bad team like Brooklyn. I'm high on Cam Thomas from that level. I think it's a mistake to now go, we'll lose him for nothing next year. Like to me, that's bad process all around. You either didn't like Cam Thomas 2 years ago, you decide that. But now, 3 years after you handed your organization to him, basically, he's run your offense. Kyrie, KD go out. He's the guy for a while.
Okay, but all right, Raj, they handed him the franchise, and like, look at all the winning they did.
Sure, I mean, but I don't think that's Cam Thomas's fault. Like they were a terrible team.
But that's what it looks like when you hand a franchise to a Cam Thomas, and now he's being asked to be paid like somebody you hand the franchise off to, and you win at a higher level, and he just doesn't.
Yeah, I understand that. That's 100% difficult. I just think there's a middle ground between going, all right, like we invested so much into you, and now we're just gonna let you walk next year for nothing. I think that to me is a mistake on the Cam Thomas part.
No, I mean, as far as like asset management, 100% agree, right? Like some team should have been willing to give up something for him over the last couple of years. I would also say that, like, when you say there's a middle ground there, I do kind of like, so basically what what his agent, is going to be doing over the course of this season.
Mm-hmm.
Sending constant emails. You see this?
He's
And so, like, they're going to be sending constant emails just to see what his market is going to look like. And I do think it's going to be somewhere in between. It's going to be higher than his qualifying offer that he signed, but much lower than the 30-something million dollars that he. Have you noticed this trend, Raj? All these guys expecting 30 to 35 million dollars. Lakers have one who's expecting a contract in that range. You know, it's like Tyler Hero got his contract, and everybody was like, I'm as good as that guy. I know I'm as good as that guy.
And they're not wrong. I mean, they're not wrong.
They're not wrong, but also, like, is that a contract that you want? Tyler Hero on that contract? He's barely an all-star.
Like, that's the cost of a really good starter, I would say. Like, fringe all-star, that's the price of a guy.
I agree in that sense, but
like, good players are going to get paid.
How much more do you think the Heat would like Tyler Hero's contract if he was at like 28?
I'm sure. I mean, if you're trying to optimize, of course. I mean, you can go down the list of the whole roster and go, yeah, if that guy made a little less, that guy made a little less, then I can go bring in this player. But that's the cost of keeping a player that's been in your system that you know that you can kind of pencil in or for. This is what this guy does. He's really good. He's not superstar, so he's not getting paid the 50, 55, whatever. But 35 for whatever 4 years, I think Tyler Hero's a tad overpaid. I don't think it's heavily overpaid, but I think he's a tad.
But a tad matters in this CBA. That tad matters because, like,
it does. But then you lose
also,
Tyler
there's a hanging
Hero.
tad joke about Florida that I could make that I'll just skip over. But like
I wouldn't get it, but
but like, so here's I've noticed this in my conversations with agents over the summer. And this kind of stretches back a couple of years. So little runway here. A lot of agents looked at the amount of money coming in, like finding its way into the league, new TV deal, all of that stuff. Like they saw giant, I'm saying like giant dollar signs everywhere. Like all these guys were like
capital A of Amazon.
Yeah. You know, they saw the exceptions going up. They saw the mid-level, the veteran minimum money going up, all that stuff. They saw the way that Supermax contracts are shaping out. I don't think they quite at the time foresaw the impact of these aprons on the middle class, where those dollars, like there's a legitimate fight for those dollars from 28 to 35 million dollars, or even 28 to 32 or 33 million dollars. Like teams are fighting, scratching and clawing for that money in ways that I don't think agents saw coming. And that has led to a shift, honestly, Raj, in the conversations and the tone of those conversations that I've had over the offseason with agents, where it's like, before it was like, oh, dude, you have no idea. Things are going to be great. There's so much money coming into this league. And now it's like, if you dare say any single thing about my guy, you are dead to me. And it's like, I've noticed that. And like, I do kind of wonder now, maybe it'll look different when the rises in the cap and all that stuff. Maybe by the time we get to some of these, like Austin's in particular, maybe, the jump in the cap will make it so that the 35 is a little bit more feasible. The 32 is a little bit more feasible. But I bet you a lot of these contracts are like, because right now Kuminga's is 25, right? He was probably expecting like 35. Giddey, right, in Chicago,
deal,
he was expecting like 35. He got 25, right?
Yeah, he got 25, 400 for Josh Giddey, which doesn't even sound right coming out. But anyway, 4 years to go run the Chicago Bulls. I don't know what they're doing.
March Madness merchant, Josh Giddey. But and then you have like I don't know. Based on like kind of how a lot of these negotiate now, restricted free agency is a very different thing than what Austin is going to be looking at, because some team probably will come along and be like the Spurs are a team that I'm really kind of keeping my eye on. I have a piece coming out on Austin, I think tomorrow, kind of previewing his season. And one of the, like, there's a lot of noise connecting Austin to San Antonio, just in case those conversations with the Lakers don't go exactly as they're expecting them to go. And all inclinations are that like Austin is going to opt out, and that he and the Lakers and he and his agent and the Lakers are all on the same page here. So I don't think it will be anywhere near as dramatic as the Kuminga thing. But if there is any drama there whatsoever, the Spurs are ready to pop in there and see what number they can get to that is just higher than the Lakers. But a lot of these teams in these aprons, like you say that's just kind of the going rate on starters. Yeah, but that's the going rate on starters who teams know they can win with. And
Sure.
At the highest levels. And if there is any question there whatsoever, I do think that becomes a complicating factor in a lot of those conversations.
For sure. And I think that's the calculation you make, right? Is there proof of concept? Have you seen this player perform in big moments? Have you seen them play in the playoffs? Hopefully that's all kind of within this conversation. But I don't think is Tyler Hero worth 30 to 35? Is Tyler Hero worth 35 or the cost to replace Tyler Hero? Because he's gone. Like, if you're not paying him, he's leaving, or you burn the bridge or whatever it is. That relationship is killed, right? Especially if he knows that's my number and he knows he has another team willing to pay that gladly, then that's the number that you got to come with, right? And so I always think of the Caruso thing, which obviously that was a incredibly terrible negotiated, deal. But Caruso actually was like, hey, this is what I'm worth. And I have another team telling me they will pay me that.
Yeah.
And Lakers like, we don't believe you. And so
no,
like, all right.
They didn't believe him. They just didn't want him.
Like, all right, well, I'm doing what I wanted to happen, Anthony. All right. This is the way this is the way I want it.
Sorry, Raj. Like,
don't show me how the sausage is made. All right. Don't like
that was the first situation that I like technically could have reported. This was at a time when I didn't want to get into reporting. That was like a really poorly kept secret that Caruso, it wasn't that he was walking, it's that the Lakers were hitting him with a broom out the door. It was a weird situation there.
Every time this conversation goes up, I go, are you sure? Are you sure that's what happened? And everyone's like, yes, that's what happened.
Anywho, Raj, you have a stat for us.
Okay. Yeah, I have a few stats that I find. This time of year, I try to dive into the last year's stats, and I do this every single season. And one thing I found extremely interesting, what I haven't seen anyone talk about yet. So, it's not a crazy, super deep PER or anything like that. But we did this with LeBron and AD, Anthony. I think every year we look at what did the team do when those two are on the floor, because the whole roster is surrounded by those two, and it matters. So I went and looked at LeBron, Austin, and Luka. How'd the team do when those three on the floor? If you had to guess, how would you think those three did? Playoffs was disgusting.
Not counting the playoffs?
Yeah, throw away the playoffs. Regular season, how do you think those three did? Second half of the season, Lakers, I think went 21-10 or something when Luka came, or something like that. But in any case, what would you guess you think those three did on the floor?
I would guess they were incredible offensively and terrible defensively.
Okay, that kind of lines up. They're a net 0, which kind of shocked me, considering they had a lineup that was destroying with the death lineup that I coined with Dorian Finney-Smith at the 5. A +0 with those three on the floor. I find that extremely fascinating. They were a +0.1. But in those games, they went, when those three specifically played, they went 13-8. So had a winning record when those three played, but a +0. Some other interesting stuff. So
I want to come back. I want to spend more time on this one.
Okay.
There's a couple ways that you can kind of look at that.
All right.
One is that
blame the roster, right?
it's right. So like if you want the optimistic view of it, you could say, well, they had Jackson Hayes as the starter.
Sure.
No Marcus Smart quite yet, right? No point of attack defender. I
plus
there was some
0.
smoke and mirrors, right, defensively there that you could maybe say, was keeping even an iffy defense kind of together. And now that a lot of that stuff is kind of addressed. If you want to be a pessimist, right? And the truth sits somewhere in the middle here. But if you want to be a pessimist, you could say, well, it's a tough group to build around, right? You have two superstars who defend basically the same position. You have a 40-year-old LeBron who is not at a point in his career where he can be like a top 2 defender on your team's floor at any moment, and he kind of has to be with that trio. You have because you have Luka and Austin and essentially your backcourt, you have no point of attack defense, so like it basically limits your margin for error defensively, having those 3 guys that you have to have 2 freaking dynamos defensively with them to have like an average defense, to have a decent defense. But like I said, they can be overwhelming offensively. And that, by the way, Raj, also third explanation there, those guys didn't do shit together last year. So even if they did, like, let's just say the defense remains terrible, you can make an argument that the offense could be so much more overwhelming with those guys doing stuff together that the team nets out higher than they did last year.
But I mean, so the offense was good. It was around 117 net rating, which would have ranked around 7th in the league. It's not dominant, right? I think when we got Luka Doncic, both of us said that this offense needed to be, I think we used your generational king. Yeah, best in the league. And it just was not. I think a lot of that does have to do with what you're speaking about in terms of not running stuff together. But the defense was also 117, right? Which would have ranked 28th, right behind the Phoenix Suns. Now, again, I don't think this is a LeBron, Austin, Luka issue in terms of at least them 3 as individuals. I was shocked first when I saw this stat. Looked it up yesterday. I went to some 2-man lineup stuff, which we don't have to get into, but I think this is very fascinating that obviously Dorian and Rui with those 2, those killed. Now there's some question, how real was that? Not 100% sure. It only played 13 games, so didn't get a crazy stat. My wonder is the jump from Ayton to Hayes so gigantic that it makes up for that. Also stemming a little bit of the age that LeBron is gaining, right? LeBron's getting a year older, probably loses some half a step. That to me is extremely interesting. Again, 21 games isn't a huge sample either, obviously, but it's what we got. And I was surprised to see that 21 games, a plus 0.1, pretty much even, which means other lineups are carrying the team to wins, basically. I just find that extremely interesting. I do agree with you. There's stuff they need to run together, but that's why people are calling me insane, Anthony, for saying I would trade a first for Andrew Wiggins. I promise I'm okay. Health is fine. I just look at this and go, what you just pointed out, where's the defense coming from? I think skinny Luka is going to be faster. I'm not sure he's going to turn into Gary Payton the Jr. and Gary Payton the second on defense. I don't know where the defense. Marcus Smart is a lot of it,
to be honest.
All right, come on. He'll be better than the guy that's sitting, who's not playing anymore. But I do find that extremely interesting because I think if you go down the list of athletes on the team, it goes LeBron, and it goes Adu Thiero. Like it jumps, and then Jackson Hayes is somewhere in there. But that's what I got from this. That I'm taking from this is that there's real holes. That lineup has some holes that need to be kind of taken for. And I just wonder if this new roster I think it fills it from a talent perspective and an offense. I think the offense can really take a jump. But defense concerns me. That's why I'm like, let's go get Andrew Wiggins, because the next name after that is like Kelly Oubre or all these other wings. But Yeah. Do you share those concerns? Did you know that, by the way, that they were kind of breaking even, those three, or would you have assumed that? I guess.
No, I had a decent idea of it, just like given Jovan had mentioned something like that in passing on the show. He made it sound a little bit better. I don't
Okay.
know how he kind of filtered the stats to get where his kind of, but like, yeah, my concern with those three guys is like they're and this is one of those things where like it might just limit the roster building capabilities here that like put that glass ceiling on the Lakers where those three guys on a night by night basis, and especially when you get into the playoffs, are always going to be at a severe athleticism disadvantage. So you then basically have to have two like extraterrestrial athletes to kind of make up for the athleticism woes there. Um, and LeBron used to be that guy, and in the postseason, he does raise his game to where he's a little bit closer to that, but he's still not like you. That series against Minnesota, Randall was kind of taking it to him physically, knocking him
Taking
off.
it to him. He was searching LeBron out. He was like,
Yeah,
I'm going at LeBron, and I think some of that was part of the game plan as well. But that's the conclusion I came to, Anthony, was if LeBron was 35, I think I
yeah,
have a lot less concerns on the build out, right? But I think a 40-year-old, like, you just have like the idea that LeBron can be this defensive monster through 82 games is just it's foolish. It's just not something he can sustain for very long. But in the playoffs, like, I think LeBron tried his best in the playoffs to do what he could.
yeah.
5 games, Anthony. Obviously, we lost in 5, so that's doesn't need to be said. Lakers were a minus 7.7, and I think the part that I think is a little bit more dangerous to me is our offense was a 109, which kind of says, we could not score at a rate that, those three together needed to be. But yeah, I find that build so interesting because I think a lot of eggs are in DeAndre Ayton's basket, and
So
it's
the
concerning.
one thing I will say too is that like the biggest disadvantage in that series was rebounding to me. I don't know if the numbers show that, like if the Lakers grabbed enough rebounds to make it look respectable or whatever, but it never like I was never confident that the Lakers could grab a rebound against the Minnesota Timberwolves that they needed to grab.
Sure.
And now in the front court, you at least have DeAndre Ayton, who's a really good volume rebounder. You have LeBron and you have Luka, who is excellent. Both of those guys are excellent rebounders as well. And like Austin is a pretty good rebounder as well. Smart, not a very good rebounder, but like I just feel like if you tell him like, hey, keep your guy off the glass, like he can do that. And to your point, like now basically that lineup hinges on is Rui going to rebound tonight? Is he going to be focused on that? Like, or uh, that lineup kind of hinges on what kind of looks are you giving to the other team so that they are actually producing rebounds, let alone turnovers. Who's turning the other team over in that group? Like that's one of the low key concerns I have, maybe even high key concerns that I have about this team is that like, so the Vikings last year, I know you don't pay any attention to the Vikings, but the Vikings last year went 14-3, and a big reason that they went 14-3 was their defense turned over teams a ton,
Sure.
and it gave their offense good field position, and they would score on some of those turnovers, and actually getting the ball into the end zone on that play. And it's just such a huge advantage in the NFL to win the turnover battle consistently, time and time and time and time. And now this season, their defense isn't turning teams over as much. I think I can only count maybe 1 or 2 turnovers that their defense has created so far. So they've been tied or losing the turnover battle. So their offense doesn't have better field position. They have a rookie quarterback who can use every single advantage that he could possibly get, and he's not getting the most important advantage that the defense needed to provide. And I'm looking at this Lakers roster, and it's like, who's creating the easy looks that you get in transition by getting those turnovers? That can boost your offense while you struggle to figure it out in the half court. Like, can you just rely on rebounding to get, to keep the other team scoring fewer points than you were scoring? So like, there's no, like, the ball pressure isn't there to create the turnovers. The closeouts aren't going to be fast enough to create turnovers. The guys aren't going to be in passing lanes because they need to contain more than they can get out and actually steal the basketball. So that's going to be something that I think we need to pay really close attention to.
Yeah, that's what, again, if Aiden's this defensive monster center, which again is a risky bet that we're leaning a lot into, I do think he's better than Jackson Hayes. It's not a high floor not high bar to reach, but obviously Aiden's going to be better than Jackson Hayes. I do think you need one more defensive wing, right? And so I think the optimistic part, and I'm seeing the chat kind of speak about this, but I think Dorian was super helpful within that, of being a guy that does all those things, that does rotate very quickly, does understand angles of defenses, does understand that, okay, this obviously in the playoffs, I think it was excessive because it's different when it's Rudy Gobert, Naz Reid. Who's their third center? They have one more center, right? I think it's Rudy Gobert, Naz Reid, and I'm forgetting one, that they have like a trio of centers.
Randall was kind of in there.
Okay, yeah, so Randall, Reid and Gobert, but I think Dorian was extremely helpful. And I think when you talk about Marcus Smart kind of having to be that Dorian role, he's obviously a lot short. I think he's a lot shorter. That's where I think the optimistic side is, can we have that look while also keeping the big with DeAndre Ayton? But I just find these numbers extremely interesting. LeBron and Austin were also a plus 0 last year. Luka and Austin were a +6. So I think that's, some positive, but I think kind of shows again the different lineups that I think we're able to fill other needs with those three kind of in separate units. But I'd be interested to see how it works. I do think we need a point of attack. Like, who's picking up full court in our starting lineup?
Smart.
If Smart starts, I guess. Smart's also not, I think, the guy you want picking up full. I'm not sure you want to put that on him on a nightly basis, but that's why, again, I think like Wiggins makes a lot of sense if that's attainable at the right price. But I just find these numbers extremely interesting. The best three guys being a +0 is so fascinating. Someone was asking me Kyrie and Luka's numbers in 2023. They were a +6 in their first season together. With like
games. All right, let's really quickly grab this. This is a really funny super comment, so I'm going to play the most important clip on the show.
I did Google it as well, and it is funny. It's an interesting thing.
I think I probably should have led with this one, actually.
Welcome everybody to the Locked On Lakers podcast.
Amazing. All right. So the comment here comes from Phil, who writes, "This is quick. Google California Secretary of State, click business search, put KL2. So many results for other LLCs. Wonder how many maybe for no-show deals, or how many he has not under KL2. The NBA should be looking into all of them." So one of the dumb, stupid theories that I had when all of this dropped, Raj.
This is insane, by the way. This is nuts.
One of the dumb, just ridiculous theories that I had, and I think I repeated it here on the show as a dumb, stupid theory, was because KL2 Aspire LLC was just such an obvious name. It was just so dumb that it made me wonder if it was like a desktop situation, an icons on your desktop kind of thing, where you have to keep them organized. So you you know, I have a lounge folder, and I have a memes folder, and so it's like Lounge LLC, Memes LLC, or AI Lounge LLC, AI Memes LLC, and so Phil tells us to go and search this out, search KL2, and here are the findings. I'm just gonna I'm gonna screen grab it, and oh my god, there are a lot of them. All right, well, I'm just gonna screen grab like the first handful of them, and then I'll extend the list from there. But Raj, it will surprise you to find out, or maybe it won't surprise you to find out, that financial dynamo Uncle Dennis wasn't exactly creative with his LLC names here. You got KL2 Aspire LLC at the top of the list, KL2 Busa LLC, KL2 CJ LLC, KL2 Connects LLC, KL2 Content LLC, KL2 Hillcrest LLC, KL2 K Squared IP LLC, KL2 LBS LBC, and it continues on from there. A couple Monty's, North Park, Performance, PM, Power, More Productions, Properties, Property Services, RIFC, RIFC Real Estate, KL2 Signature, Transport, KL 2009 LLC, KL 2067, KL 26, KL 27. Now I don't know. I don't know how many of those are going to be Kawhi Leonard specifically. But I think we have just proven my desktop theory. No, I think the second half of this comment is an important one. I'll pull it back up. The NBA should be looking into all of them. And that, here's my thing. I kind of do and I kind of don't feel bad for Kawhi, because all he needed to do was film a commercial, and we aren't having this conversation. So Kawhi, kind of on you. But my thing is, if these findings are confirmed by the NBA's investigation, KL2 LLCs are the tip of the iceberg, right? I think you got to look through all of the Clippers players, what kind of LLCs they have attached to their names. Because again, you've had a lot of guys sign for sub market value contracts on the Clippers.
Go look at Zubac's contract, people. Please go look at his extensions.
Yeah. He's what would you say, Raj? Do you think he's a top 3 to 5 center in the NBA?
Oh yeah, 100%.
And yeah, I just think let's see, Ivica Zubac's contract. He signed a 3-year, $58.6 million contract.
Everyone's like, "Oh, how did the Clippers?" His contracts never made any sense. Even the other one before it was such a discount.
All right, I'll go through his contracts. So, where's career earnings? It's unbelievable. All right, since he's gotten to the Clippers, so I think that this is while he was on this was a contract that he originally signed with the Lakers, maybe? It's hard to tell when the extensions actually happen, because there's no big jump. Normally with players, you see a big jump in there.
Right. No, he signed some really team-friendly deal.
Yeah. So in 2019, his first full season with the Clippers, Zubac was making $6 million.
That was that was with the Lakers deal. Yes.
The next one was in 2020, $7 million. that has to. Was that the first year of another deal?
I think so. I think he re-upped that summer. I don't 100%
All right.
remember.
And
I
then
just know
his
they were.
next contract was 2021. He made $7.5 million. In 2021, he was a top 10 center in the league.
I don't know if he was top 10, but he was definitely really good. Like, it was clear the Lakers messed up, and it was clear that he was like, they made the playoffs that year.
Yeah.
If I have that
Yeah.
correctly.
2022, this becomes his next contract after after 2021, he re-signs with the Clippers. At this point, he's a bona fide starting caliber big.
Yes.
His contract is for $10 million, 10.1 mil. The next year after that, $10.9 million. He'll be making $11 million this season. And then next year, after you and I just had a deep conversation about Tyler Hero making $35 million, a much better player and much more impactful player in Ivica Zubac is going to be making 18.
His contracts have always been extremely strange, and it's never been understood. And it's been really clear if he was to hit the open market, he would get a ton more than that. I just want to go to the search again really quick. Eric Fauerstein is the same name on like 10 of these, which he's also the same name obviously on the KL2 Aspire. And these go pretty much Kawhi's full Clipper tenure, right? He signed in 2019. So I'm trying to count it out. It doesn't let you. Oh, it does let you organize by date. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So there's 19 of them after Kawhi signs for the Clippers.
Like, at the very least, it makes you wonder, right? And I don't want to allege anything because this is the extent of the digging that I have done on this, other than like talking to people around the league about what they think should happen and stuff. But like, again, if this is found out, if we find out that they did shady shit here with Kawhi, you got to look at 2019 closer, and you have to look at all of the Clippers dealings since then. Nick Batum signed for below market value and kept re-signing for below market value. Yeah, like even Norm before this last, it's funny. I kind of wonder if like they stopped that because Norm, like Paul George and Norm were like the final the line in the sand that Steve Ballmer drew. He's like, guys, this is supposed to be a cap sport. My freaking costs of running business are way higher than they should have been because I keep on getting you guys these deals. And he's like, all right, I'm done. Paul George, I'm done.
Honestly,
I won't do it again.
I don't care about really. I mean, I care, but like the past stuff, I still want an investigation on this trade, Anthony. Norm Powell and Robert Covington, 2 starters at the time, extremely high for Eric Bledsoe, Justin Winslow, Keon Johnson, and a 2025 second round pick. What did Portland gain from that trade? The right to pay Jeremy Grant. I'll give you the answer. But at the time, I was screaming from hilltops, and no one listened. And I'd like people to.
That one's tough because what's the theory?
That Portland got something that was not basketball related in compensation for this god awful trade.
You think there's like a Portland Trailblazers Microsoft LLC?
All right, some shares were traded, or given. Owner came up on some Microsoft stock,
it's hard to like configure what that backdoor back channel deal would look like between two teams. But look, I mean, Steve Ballmer has Pacific Northwest ties. Microsoft is right there in the Trailblazers' backyard, or I guess the Blazers are in Microsoft's backyard.
Yeah.
So maybe there's some dealings there, I guess. Paul Allen, was he alive at the time? I think he was.
He's still alive.
No, he's not. Paul Allen?
Or did he pass? Oh.
No, his daughter, not his daughter, his sister has been running the Blazers and finally agreed to sell them for the last few years. I'm just trying to think of
you're right.
when Paul Allen passed away.
I was thinking of a different
in 2018.
Owner. Yes, I was thinking of a different owner. Yeah.
What was the Norm Powell? Who was the other guy that they got?
Robert Covington
trade. 2022. So this was after Paul Allen had passed away. So whatever business, let's see. Because he co-founded. Oh my God. You know how the Allen family has their wealth, right?
I don't. Enlighten
Microsoft.
Perfect. Just
Paul Gardner Allen was an American businessman, computer programmer, and investor. He co-founded Microsoft Corporation with his childhood friend Bill Gates.
Oh, perfect. Just perfect. I would like some phone logs and text logs and conversation logs.
Jody Allen was running the Blazers at the time.
Yeah. Just like David Wong's daughter worked at Aspiration. They had no idea. Yeah. Zero information was traded.
Raj, this is one of my one of your better conspiracy theories ever. Congrats. I've just welcomed you fully to the dark side.
This isn't even conspiracy. This is an awful trade that should have screamed loud from the heavens that no one looked at and just went, genius Clippers. How did they get this done?
But it's the kind of thing that the Clippers could do, right? They could keep on trading for these guys.
Trade for really good players.
No, but they could keep trading for good players on slightly higher than market value contracts when they were traded for, knowing that they had all this extra space by having Kawhi Leonard or other players locked in below market value. So I don't know.
Here's what made that trade so upsetting for me, at least. This will be my last thing on this. They just traded right before that, Anthony. They traded Gary Trent Jr. for Norm Powell. They just did that deal, and people are like, "Why did they do that?" Gary Trent is really good. Well, they didn't want to pay Gary Trent they thought would get a big deal. And they got Norm Powell. They're like, all right, we like Norm Powell. He actually fits better with our team. And he just gave him to the Clippers and said, here's Robert Covington too. Here's another starter. And they got this. I'm reading the trade analysis from NBA.com. That the Clippers get these two starters that will help them. They're like, for the Blazers, this gives them some salary cap flexibility, which they used on Jeremy Grant. Congratulations, Portland. Congratulations. Who they're trying to move right now. For nothing.
They cannot. He is immovable.
Yes.
Unless you plant a bunch of trees. Maybe.
Yeah.
All right, Raj, this has been fun. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Let's see. Tomorrow Harrison is in. Thursday, I have another guest lined up that I can't quite give away quite yet. And then Friday it's a Pete day. So check out Raj's work at Silver Screen and Roll and on Twitter at Raj Chapalu, and keep an eye out for this. Subscribe, rate, review, all that good stuff. And until the next time you guys hear from us, I'm Anthony Irwin. That was Raj Chapalu. This has been the Lakers Lounge. I'll talk to you tomorrow.